One of the most important steps when it comes to running cold email campaigns is personalization. Personalizing your emails give you a higher chance of the businesses that you're trying to target or leads that you're trying to target to actually open and read your emails. And this is due because they think that you actually did research and that you wrote the email rather than sending a blast to thousands of leads. So in this video, I want to show you a system that I built in order to facilitate generating icebreakers. We're going to be generating personalized subject lines, personalized icebreaker line, and also a personalized postscript. So let's get right into it. So right here, as you can see, this is going to be the whole system that I have built in N8N. We're going to be pulling leads in from Google Sheets, and then we're going to be doing different things. The two most important things here are going to be scraping the company website and getting a summary of what they do. This is so that we have some sort of context on what this person does. And then we're going to be scraping in their LinkedIn so that we know what their experience is, and maybe we can comment something related to that or something that they do specifically to make it even more personalized. But before we get right into it, I want to show you the top view of the whole system. So this is going to be what we're going to be building. So let's start here from the beginning. We're going to be pulling a lead list with LinkedIn URL and company websites from Sheets. This is going to be a lead list that has previously been extracted or scraped from a platform like Apollo.io or something like Sales Navigator on LinkedIn. So whenever you scrape from Apollo.io, a lot of the scrapers are going to include you the LinkedIn URL of the person, but it also is going to include you the company website of the company that they're currently working at. So once we gather those details into N8N, from the spreadsheet, we're going to scrape the website URL using a simple HTTP to markdown formatting automation step. And once we have the markdown format, which by the way, markdown is just a way of formatting text so that the LLMs can read it a little bit easier. We're going to pass it into an AI agent that's going to be generating a summary for the company description. So this is going to be 1 or 2 sentences on what this company does. So once we have the summary, we're going to be using Apify in order to scrape the LinkedIn from the lead. And if you don't know what Apify is, it's basically a big sort of like marketplace or provider of different scrapers that are built by a community. So if you're trying to scrape, let's say Instagram, you can scrape, for example, different posts or comments. You can also scrape Amazon for like products and things like that. But in this case, we're going to be using a LinkedIn scraper. So let me go in here and just show you briefly. This is the one we're going to be using. It's a bulk scraper. We're able to scrape pretty much everything that's going to be on their profile page. So a little bit more on that later. Then we're going to pass the information that we scraped from LinkedIn, which is going to include their about section, their headline, their previous experience, maybe some skills. We're going to pass it to an AI agent or an AI step, which is going to be creating a summary for this person's profile. Once we have that, we're going to be using another AI step or AI agent that's going to be creating the personalized icebreaker, the postscript, and the personalized subject line. The inputs that this is going to take is going to be the website summary as well as the LinkedIn summary. And then I'm missing a step here, but it's basically going to be putting this information back into Google Sheets before we are able to import it into something like Instantly. So Instantly is a cold email campaign platform that allows you to do automation and send email campaigns massively in bulk, and you're able to track different analytics. So we'll get into how to import them later and how you can customize your copy once we have generated the icebreakers. So why don't we go ahead and start from scratch? I'm going to be creating a workflow here. And actually, before we do this, let's go into Google Sheets and we're going to create our spreadsheet. So now this is what your spreadsheet should look like with your leads. I mean, you can have more information or less information depending on how you scrape it, but really the only information that we're going to need to generate the icebreakers are going to be the full name, the company website, and their LinkedIn. If you've used scrapers in the past to scrape platforms like Apollo.io, you'll see that it often returns with a ton of columns, but you don't really need that many. This is pretty much all you need. And then we're going to add a few more columns that are going to be where we're going to be putting back the information once we generate the icebreakers. So those columns are going to be LinkedIn summary, website summary, which we both saw that are going to be generated by AI. Then the personalized icebreaker, the personalized subject line, and the personalized postscript are also going to be generated by AI. We don't really need to put in the LinkedIn summary in the website. I'm just doing it so that we can, later on when we test it, we're able to see what the agent come up with. And then same as well for this one. So we're actually going to need this one because we're going to be importing it into Instantly. And these are going to be dynamic variables inside one's copy and campaigns. But I'm going to show you guys how to do that later. So why don't we go ahead and start? Our first step is going to be we're going to be using a manual trigger because we're going to manually trigger this automation for now. But really our first node is going to be a Google Sheets node. So we can look for Google Sheets over here. And then we can get rows. And so you're going to want to connect your account It's going to depend if you're using an end-to-end cloud instance or if you're using a self-hosted. But if you're using a cloud instance, I believe you can do a two-factor authentication, meaning there's going to be a button somewhere in here in which you can sign in through the pop-up Google window and just put in your Gmail, and then it'll connect it automatically. But if not, you're going to have to put in your client ID and client secret for the web app that you created in Google Cloud. This is sort of a long and a little bit complex process, so I'm not going to get into it, but I'll link a video in the description that will show you how to do it. So once you've connected your account, you want to look for that document. For me, it's going to be the Icebreaker Gen tutorial. Then we're going to choose the sheet. I'm not going to name it anything else. And there's some filters that we want to add. In this case, we only want to pull in the leads that do not have an icebreaker. And that's just because, let's say we run this automation, but we only want to do it for 1,000 leads that are in our sheet. Because let's say the next 1,000, we want to maybe tweak the prompt a little bit so that the icebreakers are different. So for that, we're going to put some logic like when their icebreaker is empty, then we're going to pull them in. And just to show you guys really quick, I'm going to start this. And you can see we get 9 items. That's just the 9 rows that we have over here. And so once we have that, I'm just going to add a limit. And this is so that we built this automation only using the first item. We don't want to be running this over and over again while testing with 9 rows, because then it's going to get really expensive and it's going to basically waste our tokens that we have for Apify and also consume our tokens for OpenAI. So I'm just going to put that, then we're going to turn it off because we are going to be having a loop that's going to loop over all the items that are pooled. But for now, I'm going to put the limit. And so this is our first step over here. It's just pulling in the information from Google Sheets. Then we're going to have a loop. And we're going to keep the batch size at 1. This is because we're going to be basically going each row one by one and generating each icebreaker for them. So now that we have the loop, the first thing we want to do, if we go back over to our diagram over here, first step is going to be to scrape the website URL. So why don't we go ahead and start setting up that? We're going to start up with an HTTP request. So we want the HTTP request with the get method, so that we can basically pull in the HTML from this person's homepage website. So if I go into URL here, I'm going to want to map whatever the loop outputs. So I just ran the loop here just so that we can get some data, which is basically just copying the data that's coming out of this limit node. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to map in the person's company website. And that's all we're going to do. If I execute this step right now, you're going to see we're going to get data. And this is pretty much the HTML of this website. So if I go into the website, looks like it's a painting company. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. Very simple website. As you can see, that's why we didn't get much HTML, but whatever we're getting here is basically this. We just get a bunch of tags and stuff because this is HTML. And that's what I was talking about when we're going to clean it up into Markdown. So we can rename this into scrape site. Going to pin this so we can do more tests, and then we're going to have a code node, and we're going to be using a code node in order to clean it up. So I generated some code using Claude in order to clean it up by removing tags that are unnecessary and formatting it into Markdown. So I'm just going to paste in the code. We don't need to know what the code does, like line by line, but take a look at the input that's going in, and then we're going to take a look at the output. As you can see, the Markdown is much shorter than everything that's in the HTML, same as the clean text. And really, at this point, we get two outputs, but they're pretty much the same. I believe the clean text just gets rid of certain characters. Like, for example, here, you can see there's like a special character, and we don't really see it over here. So it's just a Markdown and even more cleaned. So we might just use the clean text when we're generating the summary. But before we continue any further, we have to go into the scrape site node, go into settings, and have an on error. We're going to continue using error output. So when it comes to scraping information using a simple GET request, there's sometimes that some websites are not going to give us any data back. In fact, what's going to happen is we're going to have an error because there's servers blocking our request. This is completely normal. And so how we want to handle those is we're going to have a route that is going to go whenever there's an error. And what we're going to do is we're going to have a message that is created or a variable with a content that says website not available. That way, in this case, whenever we pass it to the agent, it's just going to say, oh, we don't have any website information. We couldn't access it. Continue with the flow. And this is totally okay because we're still going to scrape the LinkedIn. So it's not really going to make much of a difference. It's really going to depend on how much information this person has on their LinkedIn. So on the error route, we're going to add a set. And we're going to be setting up a variable named error, and then website information not available. And so if I run it right now, it's not really going to go through because it's not giving me an error. But if I edit the company, if I just do like a fake website, we're going to get an error. And as you can see, it's pretty much just passing the information that it got before, but not anything because this website doesn't exist. So if I run this, it's just going to set that variable into error and nothing went into here since nothing had to be cleaned up. So let me change that back. And so what we want to do now is we want to have a merge node. The merge node is going to be useful so that we can pick either or input depending on which route it goes. So I'm going to run this again so that we go on this route. And if I hit run, it pretty much just pushes whatever was in this node. If it went through here, we would just get the variable as the output. So now we're going to be creating the agent that's going to generate the summary. So let's go ahead and type in agent. We're going to define below the prompt. We're going to have a user message, but we also want to add our system message, which is going to be our main prompt. The user message is going to be the input, but for now, I'm just going to copy and paste the prompt that I have. And we're going to go through it briefly. So this is the prompt right here. Website summarizer prompt. Purpose: receive markdown converted content, create a summary 3 to 5 sentences. The input is going to be the markdown. Form of the website: it might be the homepage, about section, depending on whatever we scraped from Apollo or any other lead source. Then these are going to be the goals, 3 to 5 sentences summarizing some guidelines, and then we're going to have an output format. This is very important. So we want our output to come back as a JSON object called summary, or a JSON variable. So there's going to be that, and then our prompt is going to be website content, and then we can just map in the markdown from the merge node. As you can see, this is what the agent is going to be looking at. Then we want to add a chat model. Always using OpenAI. GPT 4.1 mini works pretty good. You want to add in your credential. If you don't know how to do it, you just go into the platform for OpenAI, platform.openai.com. Then go into API keys. You're going to generate a new key. It's going to give you the option to copy it. You're going to copy, you paste it over here, and then you're going to be all set. Just make sure you have some money in there. Otherwise, it's not going to work. Once we have that, we want to also require a specific output format. That's going to open up the output parser over here. We can do structure output parser, and then we can just copy and paste the same structure that we have in the prompt. So I'm just going to type it because it's not too long, but it's just going to be summary and then summary. So hit save. We're going to run this. And then you can see our output is just one clean variable instead of all the other information that would come back if we were to run a normal API request. Looks like it's a really brief summary about it. Now that we have the summary, we're going to move on into scraping the LinkedIn. And so I'll try to go slow and explain as best as I can how this works. If it's your first time, it might be a little bit confusing, but just bear with me. So you're going to go into Apify, and then you're going to create an account. Then once you're logged in, you're going to look down here and you're going to have $5. They give you $5 so that you can use and test it out. And then what you want to do is you want to look up this scraper right here. Make sure it's the same because the API code is different for every single scraper. They got multiple. Basically, you go into the Apify store, look up LinkedIn scraper. You're going to see there's a ton. Like, there's a scraper for everything. There's a job scraper, but the one we're looking for, I don't think it's even here. So I'm just going to link it down in the description. But these are called actors. So an actor is basically a scraper. That's why if I click on actors, there's two different that I've been using. As you can see, I've run this LinkedIn one 10,000 times because I've been using it a lot. And so before we get into how it works, let's go into the API and let's look at the API endpoint. So there's going to be different API calls that we're going to be able to make. And so first one's going to be a run actor. Basically what's going to happen when we do this API call is we're going to just run the actor. We're going to send it the LinkedIn URL and it's going to start running. The problem is that whenever you run it, it right away tells you it was a success. Like, it doesn't wait for it to get the information back. So we need to do another 2 steps. So the first step is going to be get last run. And this is going to give you a status succeeded output. In case it hasn't finished running, it's going to say something like processing. And so we're going to be able to manipulate how many times we run this until we get the actual output. So let's say I started the actor. Now, after that, I run the get last run endpoint. I'm going to get processing. So we can use an if statement so that if we get something else then succeed, then we wait, let's say 5-10 seconds, and then we check again until it succeeded. Once it succeeded, we're going to be using the endpoint get last run dataset item. And this is going to give us back what the actor was able to scrape. So it's going to be sort of a loop, but I'll show you guys. So quickly to test it, we have an example over here. If we click on JSON, this is the payload that we're going to be sending to the endpoint. So we're going to have two variables in there. One's going to be a profile scraper mode, which is just going to be this. And then the query, we're just going to paste in the leads LinkedIn. So let me save and start, and then we'll take a look at how the output looks like. We pretty much get a JSON structure back, and you'll see there's a ton of information over here. We can look here, we have a description, and we have skills. So we'll just get all this information. If you see, it's a lot. So that's why we're going to have another AI agent that's going to be summarizing this. So let's go back into an data and set it up. We're going to start off by doing an HTTP request. What you want to do, might want to grab this down here just that it's not all crammed up over there. And we can just call this one run actor. And so let's go back into Apify, go back into the actor, API endpoints. So we're going to want to copy this endpoint first because this is what we're going to be using. So I'm not going to copy the part that says token because there's a better way to do this so that it's easier the next time you do it. So here in the URL, I'm going to paste it. And then we're going to add our authentication, which is going to be our API key. We're going to create a predefined credential type, or actually generic credential type. Then we want to do a header auth. And you can see I already have my credential in there, but if you're adding a new credential, basically you have to add as a name. It's going to be authorization. And then your value is just going to be, I'm going to put as expression so you can see it, bearer, and then your API key, space, and then your API key. And the way you get your API key is you go over to your settings, API and integrations. Then you're going to have your personal token. You basically want to just copy this and paste it next to the bearer. Make sure there's a space and that it's capitalized, the name and also the value. And then you're going to paste it and you're going to save it. You can rename this whatever you want, but I'm not going to do it because I already did it. So then we're going to be sending a body. If you remember, going back to the actor, we're going to need to send this body right here. So I can copy this JSON, and then I can do using JSON so that we can just paste it in there. But we're going to want to change something in here. So we're not going to need to send this link because we're going to be sending the link that we're getting from our database. So we're going to be using whatever comes in through the loop. Make sure it's the loop over items and not the get rows and sheet. Otherwise, it's going to just loop over the same first row. So we're going to grab the LinkedIn and we're going to paste it in here. Make sure you paste it right. Sometimes it likes to paste it in somewhere else. And one more thing I need to change here is actually we're going to be using the post method. If we go into run actor, the method is post, it's not get. So we're just going to hit on post and then that should be good. So before I run this and test it, I actually want to just do the whole loop so that we are able to check when the actor is done running, get the status, and then get the results. So for getting the results, we're going to be, or getting the status first, we're going to be going into the endpoints and we're going to be using the get last run. So we can copy this up to where it says up to the question mark before the token. So as you can see, it's going to be a get method. So get. And I realized I do need to run it so that I can use some data to play around with. So I'm going to run it. Looks like it's running. What I want to do now is if you look over here, we get an act ID, and this is unique for this specific run so that we can identify the right execution. So back into the HTTP request, we're going to be changing something in the URL, and it's that we're going to be mapping that act ID in between acts and run. So go over here, the data, we're going to grab that act ID and we're going to drop it in here. Then we just want to reposition it. Then we just want to move it back. So if I execute this, it says I haven't added my credentials, which I forgot to do. So we just go into credential type, header auth, and remember the credential that you just created. So that's what you're going to use. And hit test. You can see the status is succeeded. You can see the status is running. So it's not processing, it's running. And this is the logic we want to use. If it's running, then we want to have like a wait of like 5 seconds and then check again until it says succeeded. Then we're going to proceed and get the results. So in order to do that, we're going to add an if statement. And then if these value status is succeeded. Make sure it's all caps because that's how it's going to return it. Then if it's true, we're going to continue. If it's false, we're going to add a wait. 5 seconds should be good. And we're going to put it back into get status. This is going to go down here if it's not succeeded. And if it's succeeded, we're going to add another HTTP. And then this time we want to use the endpoint of get last run dataset item. So up to the question mark, we're going to copy it. We see it's a get request. So paste that in there. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to replace the name of the actor with the actual act ID. So get rid of that. I'm going to run the if statement. As you can see, true. Then we can grab it from the if statement, should be okay. Grab the act ID, map it in there, in between act and runs. I'm going to change the name to get result. Map the if. And run it again. Since we have the pin data, it's not going to go down the false route. And it looks like we have an error. I think I forgot to add my credential again. So there auth, there it goes. Let's run it one more time. There we go. So if you look at the result, it's just going to be a bunch of information. For example, here we have a photo. We have the other information related to that, but we don't really want that. We want to look for their description. So for example, we can search about. It might not have an about section, which is why it's not showing up. Oh wait, you see here, it says about and it's null. Their headline is I am third. Their name is Chris Hammond. And then we can go down to experience. So you can see we're going to see all the experience. So president and CEO of Leech Painting Inc. And then some other information. Now, this is a lot of information and we don't want it raw. We want to pass it through an AI agent that's going to basically create a summary on this person's profile so that we can use that with the website URL to generate the icebreaker. Our next step is going to be to add a limit. This is just to make sure that we're only passing one item at a time. Then we're going to add the agent. We're going to define it below, and I'm just going to system message. Same thing, I'm going to paste in the prompt and then we're briefly going to review it. Similar to the other agent, it's just saying it's a summarizer of LinkedIn information. And there's some guidelines, and this is going to be our output format. We just want it clean, so we're going to be using the output format. So same thing for the user message, I'm just going to paste in what I already have. So rather than just mapping, what I did here is I added some conditionals that if it's undefined, we're just going to write null instead of it writing undefined and giving us an error. So that's what this logic is right here. You might just want to copy and paste it, but it's not really that complicated or that important. That's why I'm not going in depth. Same thing as the experience. This is a little bit more complex. I use Claude to clean up the output because if you see, the experience might be a really big object right here. It has a bunch of information we don't need, like the company ID, company logo, URL, things like that. So I just write this code so that it extracts it a little in a cleaner way. Same thing for the skills and certification. So let me give this a run. And I just realized we didn't put the model, so I'm going to use OpenAI again. 4.1 should be okay. We're going to add a specific output format. So turn this on. Then this is the output format we're going to be using because we're putting it in the prompt. We wanted a certain output. So structure output parser and paste this in there. Give it a run, and then you should have your data all clean. There we go. Then it gives me a summary of this person, which is really cool. So now we have our two main inputs. We're going to have the website summary, just right here. The company is, which we're getting it from the website, and then the LinkedIn. So with that, we need the last agent, which is going to be generating the actual icebreaker. So similarly, we're going to be defining it below. We're going to have an input, which is going to be both of our summaries, and then we're going to have the system prompt. So I'm going to paste it in there. And then this one's a little longer. So basically, this is going to depend on your needs. But for this case, I'm going to be having 4 different outputs. So a subject line, icebreaker, postscript line, and an industry. This is so I can customize my copy. I realized I didn't add industry over here, so we can just go ahead and add that. So then I have some templates on how I want my personalizations to come out. So giving it some examples for each one of them. So the subject line, the icebreaker, postscript, industry. I would say read through this, and if you plan on implementing it, then tweak it to your needs and whoever your target niche or ideal customer profile is. So going to require a specific output format, add a chat model, OpenAI, structure output parser. I'm going to paste all that in there. And then we're going to start grabbing our inputs. So I mapped everything in here. The name, which I'm just getting from the loop, which is what's on the spreadsheet. Then we have the LinkedIn summary, which we're getting from the AI agent, and our other website summary, which is the other AI agent. I should probably rename these, but before doing that, I'm going to give this a run. And this is the website summary. Then we have LinkedIn summary and Icebreaker gen. So here's the output that we got. Hey Chris, do you need support with software development at Leech Painting? I know you're a leading painting company that focuses on quality and customer care. Even if you just trade notes on what's working for you, I'm happy to chat. So these are all stuff that you're going to be adding to your email copy. And obviously this is going to depend on what your needs are. I was just simulating that I'm a software development company, and that's why it says here in the subject line. But that's everything you can tweak on the system prompt. So now that we have that, our last step is going to be adding it back to the sheets. So for that, we're going to use Google Sheets, update a row, choose the same document, same sheet, and then we're going to need a column to match on. For this case, we're going to be using the row number. That's just to make sure that we're always adding it back to the right row. So go over to loop over items. You're going to have your row number in there. Just going to paste it in here. And then we're going to delete all these up to the information that we just generated. So in this case, it's going to be the LinkedIn summary, which we can just get from LinkedIn summary. Then we can get the website summary, personalized icebreakers and all that. This is from our previous one. So subject line, Icebreaker, and Postscript, and then industry. So, and then what we want to do is we want to close the loop, and then you're pretty much done. So grab this and bring it all the way back to the loop. And that's going to be it. I'm going to rearrange this just so that it's not too confusing to read. There we go. And one thing to notice is that once it's done, you can have a custom action. For example, sending you an email, send a message, you're going to add your credential, maybe say something like leads are done or icebreakers are done generating. So then, you can go ahead and start and import it into instantly. So I'm just going to run this, and we're going to take a look over here and make sure that these are getting filled out correctly. Save this and execute workflow. See, it's waiting for that first one. Just going to go over here. Looks like it just got generated. And we're just going to wait. I'm going to speed this up so that we're not here waiting for too long. So there we have it. Every single one of the leads got a generated icebreaker, all personalized to their own information. And this does take quite a while. And there's a different way that you can do this, which is doing it by bigger batches. Right now I'm doing one at a time. There's a way to do it multiple. I just do it for the sake of this video, one at a time. And to simplify stuff, I mean, it's still going to work if you have a ton of leads, but it can take a while. Even if you do it by batches, it's also going to take a while. So I would recommend leave these running overnight, depending on how long your list is. And like I said, at the end of the loop, add an action so that it sends you like a notification to your email or something else. That's pretty much it. Why don't we go ahead and read a couple of these? So personalized icebreaker for Stephen. So I know you're focused on high-end painting and restoration, and I've been following innovation in eco-friendly materials for a while, so I figure it makes sense to chat. So that's the icebreaker. Then the subject line is going to be, do you need support fixing software development at company? Then the PS, even if we just trade notes on what's working for you, I'm happy to chat. So pretty good. Now what you want to do, if you want to use this in like Instantly or any other cold email platform, you just want to download it as a CSV works. Then we can go into Instantly, log in. Then you can import it into a campaign or just create a new one. You're going to add leads, and you're going to see that you can upload in CSV. So for this case, I'm just going to update this, and it's going to give you the option to map all these into like Instantly CRM. And what you want to do is you want to make sure you're importing the ones you need. So for this case, it's going to be all the personalized information. So the icebreaker, we're just going to add it in as a custom variable, and you're going to do the same for each of these. So custom variable, custom variable, custom variable. And I'm just going to turn off campaign lists in the workspace because I believe I've already used these leads, but I'm going to import them into this new campaign. And you'll see that instantly this is where you write your campaigns. So I could add custom variables, which are going to be those columns. So for this case, I could put my personalized icebreaker, and my subject could just be personalized subject line, which should match the name of the column. So if I hit preview over here and I select the lead, you'll see the email, and then it matches the subject line as well as the icebreaker. And you also have all the other variables such as the Postscript and the industry. So pretty cool. It's just everyone's gonna have a different copy, so you're just gonna use those items as you wish. But that's pretty much it. So I'm going to be giving away the whole blueprint that I used today for this specific build. And you're going to have in there the code node, all the prompts and all sort of stuff, so that it is an easy setup if you would like to try it out. And as I said, this is a very effective way to personalize your campaigns and definitely improve your reply rate as well as your open rates, because it makes you stand out from all the other campaigns and marketing newsletters that these businesses might be subscribed to. So if you find it helpful, please consider subscribing. I'm going to be posting more videos on builds similar. I know this one was a little bit more complex. And if you have any specific recommendation of builds that you want me to do, just comment it down below and I'll see you on the next one.